Hi all, it's Bridget to intro our podcast with Danni, the founder of the Skate Retreat and founder of Girls Skate UK. This is Europe's first luxury skate retreat for women, trans, non-binary skaters, and their allies to learn, connect, and grow through skateboarding. They host lessons, workshops, and retreats. Their focus is not just skateboarding, but also self-growth and nature connection. Join me as I travel all the way from Chicago, Illinois to Sheffield, England to visit the Skate Retreat.
My name's Danni, I'm she, them, they, and I have been skating for 15 years. The skate retreat was really grown out of, I've been running kids skate camps for like 10 years, maybe 12 years, and while that's amazing to be able to do that for the kids, I realised that there was such a gap. Like, there was all these adults that also wanted to kind of have this space that was for them, you know. Sometimes when you go to a skate park, there'll be loads of kids there, or there'll be people of abilities, you know. Sometimes when you're a beginner, you can feel totally lost in those sorts of spaces, and I think having a space that's just for you and made for you, and an environment that's kind of built for learning, that's what's really important, and that's what really helps progression, and it helps build the scene because it just makes the place more inclusive and more welcoming. And I think for me, the skate retreat is really about providing that space for people to feel free enough to learn to skate and feel comfortable to learn to skate, you know, free of judgment, and just kind of calm and relaxed. And I think that's a really important mindset to be in when you're learning to skateboard.
I definitely agree. I feel like even when you get older, it feels weird to like take skate lessons when you're with little kids.
Yeah, for sure, and that's what a lot of the people who come to these sessions say, you know. They go to the lessons and they go to the camps, and it's very much kind of like young, hyper intensive, you know, skate environment, when actually sometimes you need to take a step back, you just need to chill a little bit, you need to have the space, the time and the room to be able to learn. And I think that's what makes a skate retreat pretty special.
And what is the day in the life of a skater at the skate retreat?
On our retreats,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I do workshops here and I do retreats as well. But at the retreats, it's very much centered around relaxation, and kind of just being present, being kind of, I don't know really. I guess that's not the question that you asked, is it? You asked what the general day in the life is, didn't you? So I guess so. A day in the life that people would wake up, they'd go and take a little walk around our 42-acre forest. They could take a dip in our open-air bathtub, and then our lessons start usually around 10 o'clock, and we'd have kind of focused progression sessions. And these are really just kind of informal sessions that are tailored to the people. So it's kind of like a holistic way of teaching. We'll build it around the person, and it's centered around what they have, what their expectations are and what their goals are for the day. So it's really about having a chat with them and just seeing where they are with skateboarding, and kind of working with them to be able to progress themselves, I guess. But aside from skateboarding, we do loads of other stuff as well. We do lots of workshops and kind of wellness based things as well. So we'll have forest bathing, and we'll do foraging walks. We have nocturnal wildlife walks where we'll go for a little walk in the forest and get our bat detectors out and moth traps. And it's really about connecting with the land and just being in nature.
That's so cool. And how did you find this space?
It was a lot of research to find kind of like the space that we wanted, and also somewhere that allowed us to kind of bring in these skate ramps and 50 odd skateboarders, because a lot of places turned us down when I was initially kind of like reaching out. I think the word skateboarder sometimes can have negative connotations, so I missed out the skateboarding part for a little bit when I was kind of like asking people if we could have their space, and eventually I just found the perfect spot, and it's got loads of really cool, quirky glamp huts everywhere. it's just a really lovely space, and it's really cool that the owners allow us to be able to hire in these ramps. We hired in a hot tub and a sauna, just made it a really kind of like welcoming, chilled out space to learn how to skate.
Did you see the representation growing up of girl and non-binary skaters in the UK?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I didn't even know girl skateboarders existed until my friend showed me. It was actually Alexis Sablone's section in Wonderful Horrible Life, and that was the first ever girl I saw skateboarding, and I was like, I didn't even believe it was a girl at first, and I saw her kickflip off this nice ledge, and I was just like, oh my god, this is sick. And that was the first time I'd ever seen it, you know. And then I just kind of had a little go and I tried, but I didn't know anybody else who skateboarded in the UK. I hadn't heard of anybody, and it was like I didn't stick at it because it's like it was, you know, the motivation. Like, it's cool skating with your lad friends and it's sick, but sometimes it's really cool to have that kind of like someone who's like you know. Yeah, I can do that too, because, you know, yeah, sometimes you can see people doing crazy stuff and it seems so far away from where you are at the minute that it almost becomes unattainable. But when you see somebody who's kind of like you, it kind of makes you sort of think, yeah, I can do that too. But anyway, when the internet came about, I started like researching, and I found a girls' skate jam that just happened to be, you know, maybe 40 miles away. So I begged my friends to drive me there, and we all drove in a little car. I think I was about 17 at the time. And yeah, we just met maybe like 6 or 7 other girl skaters, and that's what really kind of like spurred me on to learn more and go to meet up at these other events with them, and that little tiny community is really what inspired me to carry it on.
And what's it like now to be a non-traditional skater in England? Do you see that there are more women and non-binary skate crews?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's totally flipped 180 now, and you go to a skate park and there's pretty much always at least a girl at a skate park now, and that's really cool, because back when I was learning to skateboard, like, you'd never see a girl at a skate park ever, and it was quite an intimidating place. But now you see loads of girls, and there's so many groups that have popped up, and I think this kind of like movement and little revelation really, or revolution rather, is starting to take off now, and I think that's really exciting. Yeah.
Do you ever collaborate with any of the other skate crews, or?
Well, so when I started a campaign a couple of years ago, because there wasn't very many girls crews, you know, and the ones that were about, they were kind of disjointed from like the rest of the scene. Like, we didn't know about each other, you know, and we couldn't really give each other support, go to the events when we didn't really know about them. So I started this campaign, this Connect campaign, a couple of years ago through Girl Skate UK, and that was really about encouraging people to either start a page, Instagram page for the girls group, or if they didn't have one locally, to giving them information and like the foundation to get their group going. So we went from probably maybe like 10, maybe even less than that, girl groups in the country to over 60 in like the space of that year that we were running that campaign. And now, so the point of it was to have a girls group in every single city. So that was like the point, and we've got one in every county now, but like we're still working on the cities. But to see it grow from, you know, 5 or 10 groups to over 60, and probably way more than that now. I haven't done a count up in over a year. So I just think like you can see it growing. And when all of these girls are connected and they're speaking to each other and getting excited about events and getting inspired by each other, it just grows and grows and grows. It's like a snowball effect. So that's, yeah, it's a really important thing to be able to do. It's never just about one person. You have to have the support of everybody, and everybody has to get involved for things to happen. So whilst one person might give the inspiration to start something, it relies on the whole entire community to get this stuff going.
What do you do in the winter in the UK? Are there indoor parks? Or?
Yeah. So we have quite a few indoor parks in the UK, and they're all really great, and they're all quite supportive. I mean, almost every single indoor park has got a dedicated female or minority gender session, either once a week or once a month. And that's another thing that we were kind of campaigning for with Girl Skate UK a couple of years ago, is to get these girl sessions in like every park. So we're really stoked now that there are girl sessions in pretty much every single county. So when it is winter and when it is raining, which in the UK is like all the time, we have somewhere to go. And yeah, I think you notice the difference in the places that haven't got the indoor spaces and the indoor parks, or even the groups dedicated to the girls, because they don't have anywhere to go, they don't have anywhere to practice. When it starts to get dark at 4 o'clock, lots of women don't feel safe to go trek into a car park and go skate in the dark, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's that accessibility thing. So I think that's what's really important with having these sessions in indoor spaces as well as just outdoor spaces as well.
Definitely. The ones in Chicago are not
Really?
the best. Very male dominated, and
Yeah.
I've
got to say, like, the scene is I want to say the word tolerant, but tolerant's not the right word, because tolerance is like the very basic. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but people are, the scene's quite supportive, I think, of females and minority genders in this country. But you do notice it with the skate parks, they do put in a lot of effort to run these sessions. Yeah.
That's amazing. What is unique about skating in the UK?
Skating in the UK is fairly unique because we've got pretty shit street spots. Like everywhere's cobbled. I think when you go to America, you go to places like Barcelona or Australia, you notice a difference because you have all these flat, wide spaces and paths and places to skate. Whereas in England, lots of the roads are very narrow, they're very tight. There's curbs everywhere. Everywhere's cobbled. So I think that kind of is a little challenge factor into street skateboarding, and I think that's also why in the UK we don't have as many female street skateboarders as what we do transition skateboarders. Females generally, and I'm stereotyping a little bit, but not because I've seen this firsthand, you know, generally steer towards the transition kind of bowl skating, mini ramp skating, and I'm one of those as well, you know. But I think that is largely due to, it's not largely due to the environment, because I think having support in any environment can kind of make you flourish and make you progress, you know what I mean? So it's not just because the streets are cobbled, like there's a whole societal part of that as well, but that is one factor, you know, like we have pretty shit street spots here, and they're hard to skate, they're challenging, but that's why lots of really sick street skaters come from England, because they go to America and they're like, oh, this is piece of piss, you know, this is like easy, this is like a skate park. Whereas in England, or like some of the US skaters will come here and be like, man, your spots are really hard, you know. So I think that little difficult factor weighs in a little bit, but obviously that's not the reason why there's less female street skaters.
That's interesting though. Yeah. How has the skate retreat impacted others and provided a safe space, and also like impacted the community?
That's quite an interesting one. I could give quite a cool example of how it's impacted others. I have lots of guests come here from London, so they travel all the way from London just to come and skate my little tiny skate ramp, which I think is insane. But most of my guests come from London, and it got so popular that one of the ladies who was in charge of building Hackney bumps, or not building it but helping to regenerate and redesign it, she came up and took measurements for my ramp because it was so talked about, and she came up and took measurements, and then they went and built a concrete one down in Hackney bumps, so you can go and skate my little ramp down in London in Hackney, which I think is like insane. So I guess it must have had a bit of an impact because it's now been immortalised in concrete like 200 miles away, which I think is mental. So as a safe space, there's plenty of places that offer, you know, less skate lessons. There's less places that offer skate lessons solely for adults, but they still exist. But I think the skate retreat's unique because I'm also combining adult methods of learning with green space learning, which is kind of not done in skateboarding. And what I mean by green space learning is that it's scientifically proven that when you're exercising in green space and when you're learning in green space, you can take in more information, you can exercise for longer, for harder, your stamina's increased, your mental health's increased because you're happier, you know, it boosts your mood, it helps you to sleep. And just being outside and being around trees and being around nature really, really helps you to learn. So by combining that with adult methods of learning, so my skate lessons aren't like go into a regular skate lesson, because they're generally, when you have your skate lesson training, you generally are taught, you know, lesson planning and like how to coach kids basically. Yeah, so I'm taking adult methods of learning and combining that with skateboarding, but also bringing in the screen space element as well. And I think that's what the trio together that kind of makes this place quite unique.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank
That's so
you.
important, especially like, yeah, just, you know, greenery and environment.
Yeah, I think it's not thought about, you know, people don't think about it, but skate parks are generally quite a sterile place, you know. You've got you can find in your four walls, there's not much decoration, everywhere's grey, usually it's grey or brown, you know, and it's, while they're built for purpose, they're not built for progression or actually learning. And the beginner's journey to learning is a lot different from, you know, somebody who can already skate and they're trying to progress. You know, skate park's probably the best environment for them because all the obstacles are built for purpose. But here, and when people are learning, they're not generally fussed about what it is they're skateboarding. It's getting out of your head to be able to actually do the things that you want to do. And I think that's sometimes forgotten about in skate lessons. So I think I'm just trying to bring all of that together at the skate retreat.
And how has your upbringing made you the person and skater that you are today?
Oh, that's I don't know, that's a I'm from a massive family. So I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I'm the middle child. I've literally lost count how many nieces and nephews I have. Like once it got to like 16, I have legit lost count, maybe 17 or 18 now. But I've got a huge family, you know. And I don't know, I think I've always been the weird one, you know. I've always been the kind of like one that's been into like the weird stuff, I guess. I say weird, but you know, kind of like the rock music and like, you know, the stuff that kind of like the rest of my family wasn't. So I don't know, I think that kind of like skateboarders are misfits, and I think we're quite drawn to that, like lots of kind of people who feel like they don't fit into other sports and other kind of like groups and stuff find their place in skateboarding sometimes because the people are a bit different, you know. And I don't know, I think maybe having such a big family and trying to find your place in the world and feeling maybe like you didn't fit in with the rest of my family or whatever. I don't know, skateboarding just kind of seemed like a cool thing to try, you know. I just really got into it. I think that having that kind of focus to do something is really important. Yeah, I feel like I was like a bit lost before I properly found skateboarding. You know, like just doing loads of drugs that weekend with your mates. Like I was at uni, but I was probably not taking it seriously at all. But when I started skateboarding, it was like, right, I don't want to feel shit the weekend, I want to feel good, I want to go skateboarding. So it's like, I'm not going to go out and do this, whatever. I'm going to just go skating the next day and feel good. And I think like having that focus to do something kind of, yeah, made me find my way a little bit. And having that community aspect is part of it as well. And I think meeting other people that are kind of like on your wavelength and doing the same sort of stuff as you, and like you're going on trips together and you're doing all this cool stuff. And it's like having your own little family as well. And I think that's what I love about the Girl Skate UK community, because I feel like before that there wasn't really a central hub or a central place for the girls skaters to be able to connect and talk to each other and like, you know, find out when the jams were happening or whatever. Building Girl Skate UK and starting that nearly 9 years ago now made everything else sit into place a little better. Like I had things to do, I had jams to organise, you know, events to kind of do, and it was like quite full on, and I think that kind of governed my life a little bit for a long time. But I love the skate retreat as well because it's kind of like a little break from that, and it is taking all this kind of community aspect, but it's also building something new at the same time, and I think that's what excites me. It's I almost feel like I've done my job with the girl skate stuff now. Like what I had in mind has happened, and there is an amazing community now, and it's almost like the direction needs to change a bit, and that's kind of where I feel like I'm going with the skate retreat a little bit more. yeah, I guess the journey's always evolving, isn't it? And you never really know, and just kind of take things as they go. And yeah, paths seem to form themselves.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And where do you see the skate retreat? What is in the future? Do you see it?
My boyfriend literally asked me that the other day, and it's the first time he's ever like shown any interest in future things about the skate retreat. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He thinks it's like going somewhere, which is really nice. Because honestly, it's like, I don't know. I never knew how, or where I wanted to take it. I just kind of, like I said, I've been running. I was running skate camps for kids for quite a long time. And it's like, oh, I miss that, but I don't miss that because it was quite hectic. And it's like, I miss being able to get away and having skateboarding is like the sole thing to do. But there wasn't really anything around for me to go to or to do. So it's like, oh, why don't I just make one, you know? And it's kind of like the same ethos with the girl skate thing. It's like, oh, I really want this girl skate community, but there isn't one. I'll just make one, you know? And it's kind of that same thing with the skate retreat. And it's like, I wanted a cool little getaway, you know, where we could just go and chill out and have skateboarding as the main thing, but not the only thing. So for me, I built it as a place that I would want to visit, and it's like, if I want to visit, then I'm sure other people would want to visit it as well. And I don't really know where I want it to go, but I definitely know that I just want to be able to do more of them and be able to offer them to more people. Because at the minute where I am, it's an amazing space, but it's really, really expensive, and that kind of cuts out some of the people that are maybe wanting to come along because it's not as accessible. And if I can do more of these, I'll just be able to do them at all different price points, you know, all around the country, and make it as accessible as possible for people to just be able to get into skateboarding and learn to skate in this really lovely environment.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you have... I always ask this question a lot.
Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self, like a piece of advice, or, you know, if you could talk to your younger self and tell them something?
I don't know, that's a hard one, isn't it? It's probably coming down now. I don't know, I think the main thing is just to not give a shit what other people think, you know? And I think that's what kind of put me off skateboarding for a long time, is because I was like, oh, what are people going to think of me, you know? I think I got a stupid comment from a boy down the street, and it literally put me off skateboarding for a long time, and a stupid comment, you know? And it's like, it's so hard to say this to somebody who really does care what other people think, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, it's just do your own shit, you know, do your own stuff, and things work out, yeah.